Chapter 35. The Marked Ones. The arena did not pause. It did not breathe. It simply waited. And when the next group entered, it responded. Group 7. 32 contestants stepped forward as the barrier sealed behind them with a dull, final sound. For a moment, no one moved. A man near the edge spoke cautiously, scanning the field. Why is everyone holding back? Another man beside him kept staring ahead. You don't feel it? The first frowned. Feel what? A third fighter answered quietly. All attention shifted to the center. A woman stood there, an owl mask, motionless, unnaturally still. One fighter tightened his grip. She hasn't even moved. Another took a step forward. Then all fours heard. A warning came from behind. Don't go alone. But the man had already rushed forward. His movement was sharp and direct. His blade cut toward her neck and passed through empty air. He stopped instantly, confused. What? Then, a voice behind him. Soft. Close. You missed. He turned in shock. Too late. A thin cut opened across his throat. His body collapsed before he could react. The silence shattered. That was an illusion. No, something's wrong. What is she? The woman didn't answer. Instead, her presence multiplied. 2, 3, then more. A fighter shouted in panic. Which one is real? He attacked wildly. His blade struck another contestant. I thought you were her. Are you insane? The structure of the group broke instantly. Another fighter sprinted toward the mirror. I'll end this now. His weapon struck the surface. A violent backlash burst outward. He was thrown off his feet. At the far edge, a scream followed. A man's arm twisted unnaturally before he collapsed. Someone shouted urgently. The farther you stand, the worse it hits. Stay near the center. But no one stayed composed. The masked woman began walking. Slow, controlled. A fighter spotted her movement. There, she's right there. He lunged forward. His blade sliced through. Nothing. A voice echoed beside him. You're focusing too hard. Before he could react, his chest split open. He fell where he stood. The tension did not break all at once. It slowly unraveled. One fighter spoke, his voice uncertain. I can't follow her. Something feels off. Another man answered, trying to stay composed. No, it's not her movement. It's affecting us. A third fighter raised his voice. Don't rely only on sight. Keep your position steady. A small group moved together. Carefully, step by step. They tried to stay aware of each other. At the center, the masked woman remained still. Watching, waiting. One of the fighters reached the mirror. He struck it. A heavy shock spread across the arena. Several fighters lost their balance. Some fell to the ground. One groaned as he tried to stand again. Another spoke, realization creeping in. Were the ones triggering this? The air began to feel strange. Not heavier, but harder to process. One fighter touched his head. I can't think clearly. His companion grabbed his shoulder. Stay focused. Don't lose yourself. The first man slowly turned. Who are you? The second froze. What are you saying? The confusion lasted only a moment. Then, the attack came. Sudden, uncontrolled. Another fighter fell. A nearby contestant stepped back in shock. This isn't just vision. It's affecting decisions. Another voice tried to stabilize the situation. Slow down. Think before acting. But their coordination was already failing. One fighter looked around. Why is everything so quiet? Another whispered. Why are they all staring? Then, a voice came from behind. Soft. Calm. You're the only one still aware. The fighter froze. Moments latte. He collapsed. When the fighter fell, the strange stillness faded. The arena moved again. But fewer people remained standing. One of the fighters spoke quickly, trying to keep control. Stay together. Don't separate again. Another agreed. We move carefully. No one acts alone. They adjusted their positions, standing closer to each other. For a brief moment, things felt stable. Then, the masked woman took a single step forward. That small movement changed everything. A fighter glanced to his side. The man who stood next to him was no longer there. Where did he go? Before he could understand, something dropped nearby. Another fighter turned in confusion. This isn't normal. Their formation began to weaken again. Fear slowly returned. One of them raised his voice. "We have to act now. Use the mirror." One of the fighters moved forward. He didn't wait for the others. His steps were quick, but uncertain. He reached the mirror and raised his hand. When he touched it, a strong force spread across the arena. The air shifted suddenly. Several fighters lost their balance. The ground felt unstable for a moment. Then everything settled again. When everything became steady again, the space where he had been standing was empty. The last fighter remained still. He didn't move at first. He didn't react immediately. For a few seconds, he just stood there, trying to understand what had happened. Then slowly, he turned around. For a brief moment, nothing changed. The arena remained still. The air felt quiet and heavy at the same time. The remaining fighter tried to steady himself. He took a slow breath. His focus shifted forward again. The masked woman stood nearby. Her presence was calm, unmoving. He didn't step closer. He didn't step away. He simply remained where he was, uncertain of what to do next. After that, the arena remained quiet. No one moved forward. No one spoke. The tension faded into stillness. Only one figure remained standing, the owl mask. Everything else had settled. From above, a calm voice echoed across the arena. Group 7 complete. At the edge, Alex remained still. This is an illusion, he thought. It affects perception itself. His gaze lifted slowly. The woman above was already writing. She had not waited for the outcome. Group 8 began. 32 contestants stepped forward. The barrier closed behind them. The change was immediate. The air felt heavier, not physically, but enough to slow movement. One fighter spoke under his breath. "Something feels wrong." Another tightened his grip. "This isn't the mirror." A third looked toward the center. "It's him." At the center, a man wearing a lion mask stood still. He wasn't moving, but his presence could be felt. A quiet pressure spread across the arena. One fighter forced a step forward. "He's just one person." He tried to advance again, but his body resisted. His movement slowed, then stopped completely. "Why can't I move?" The lion-masked man spoke calmly. "Kneel." The fighter dropped where he stood. His weapon slipped from his hand. No one understood it immediately, but no one ignored it either. A wave of unease spread through the group. One fighter spoke quickly. "It's pressure. Something is forcing us down." Another added, "Don't get too close to him." Several fighters stepped back. Some moved toward the mirror. One of them spoke with urgency. "We should use the reflection, create distance." He moved forward carefully. When he reached the mirror, he struck it. A strong reaction followed. The air shifted again. Several fighters lost their footing. One of them fell hard and struggled to stand. Others stayed low, trying to stabilize themselves. At the center, the lion-masked man began walking. His steps were slow, measured, but with each step, the pressure increased slightly. One fighter tried to raise his weapon. His arm felt heavy. It didn't respond the way he expected. "You're too weak," the masked man said calmly. The fighter lowered again without meaning to. A group of fighters tried to coordinate. "Spread out, don't let him control the space." They moved carefully, adjusting their distance. Some stayed closer. Some moved outward. The balance was unstable. One fighter tried to push forward. Another tried to pull back. Their movements lacked unity. The pressure continued to build. It wasn't sudden. It was steady, constant. One fighter spoke with difficulty. "We can't move the way we want." Another answered, "Then we need to act together." 3 fighters moved in sync. They aimed for the mirror again. Their timing was better this time. They struck it together. The reaction spread outward again. A strong wave moved across the arena. At the center, the lion-masked man adjusted his position slightly. He remained steady, while others struggled to keep balance. At the edge, Alex watched quietly. This isn't raw power, he thought. It's controlled pressure. His gaze focused on the man's position. He's choosing where to stand, not randomly. Back in the arena, only a few fighters remained stable. Others had already lost control of their movement. One fighter spoke, breathing uneven. "We can't match this." Another replied quietly, "Then we shouldn't fight directly." But there was no clear solution. The lion-masked man continued forward, unhurried, unchallenged. The remaining fighters tried to adjust again, but their movements no longer aligned. The difference in control was clear, and the outcome was no longer uncertain. Moments later, the arena grew quiet again. No more movement, no more resistance. Only one figure remained standing. The lion mask. From above, a voice echoed clearly. Group 8, complete. At the edge, Alex remained still. Perfect control, he thought. They never had a chance. His gaze lifted. The woman above had already finished writing. She had not waited for the result. The decision had been made earlier. Group 9 began. 32 contestants stepped forward, the barrier seal behind them. Almost immediately, something felt off. A faint scent spread across the arena. One fighter covered his nose. "What is that smell?" Another answered, more alert. "It's not normal." A third stepped back slightly. "Don't breathe too deeply." At the center, a man wearing a serpent mask stood still. His presence was subtle, but something about the air around him was changing. A light green haze began to form. It moved slowly, spreading outward. One fighter spoke quickly. "We should stop him before it spreads." He rushed forward. His movement was sharp at first, then slowed. "Why does my body feel heavy?" His steps became uneven. His grip weakened. He stopped completely. A moment later, he dropped. The others froze. No contact had been made. No visible strike. Just the effect. The realization spread quickly. "It's the air, stay away from him." Several fighters moved back, trying to create distance. Others turned toward the mirror. One spoke with urgency. "We need to push the effect back. Use the reflection." He approached carefully. When he reached the mirror, he struck it. A reaction spread across the arena. The pressure shifted. Some fighters staggered. One near the edge lost balance and fell. He didn't get back up. The green haze didn't disappear. Instead, it seemed to expand further. At the center, the serpent-masked man began walking. Slow, controlled. The space around him remained dangerous. A fighter attempted to move behind him. His steps slowed almost immediately. "Something's wrong." He stopped, then collapsed. Tension continued to rise. One fighter spoke loudly, trying to keep control. "Don't move too close." Another answered quickly. "And don't stay too far either." There was no safe position, only choices with different risks. One fighter attempted a ranged attack. He raised his weapon and released it forward. The motion carried through the air, but lost strength along the way. Before reaching the center, it faded. The fighter lowered his arm slowly. It didn't work. His breathing became uneven. He stepped back slightly. His stance weakened. Nearby fighters noticed a change. No one moved toward him. They were already struggling themselves. At the edge, Alex watched carefully. "It spreads quietly," he thought. "Not fast, but constant." His eyes narrowed. They're already affected. They just don't realize how much. For a short moment, everything slowed. The arena felt quiet again. No one moved immediately. The remaining fighters focused on their breathing, trying to steady themselves, trying to understand what was happening around them. After that pause, one fighter shifted his position slightly. He looked toward the mirror, not rushing this time, not forcing it. He moved with caution, step by step. When he reached it, he placed his hand on the surface. A reaction followed, subtle at first. The air changed again. The effect spread outward. He stepped back slowly, trying to adjust his balance. Nearby fighters watched carefully, but no one moved closer. At the center, the serpent-masked man remained still, unchanged. The space around him continued to feel difficult to approach. After some time, the movement across the arena faded. The remaining fighters were no longer advancing. They were only trying to maintain their footing. The pressure in the air had settled into something constant, difficult to ignore, difficult to resist. At the center, the serpent-masked man stood unchanged. No visible effort, no reaction, only stillness. Gradually, the arena returned to quiet. No more movement followed. Only one figure remained standing. The serpent mask. From above, a calm voice echoed. Group 9 complete. At the edge, Alex remained still. There was no direct way to counter it, he thought. Only time, and even that wasn't enough. His gaze lifted slowly. The woman above had already finished writing. She knew long before it ended. Group 10 began. 32 contestants stepped forward. The barrier sealed behind them. A sudden drop in temperature spread across the arena. It wasn't gradual. It settled instantly. One fighter reacted first. Why did it get this cold? Another pulled his arms closer. This isn't normal. A third looked toward the center. It's coming from her. At the center, a woman stood. A white lion mask covered her face. A faint mist surrounded her. The space around her felt still, controlled, not chaotic. One fighter spoke carefully. "Don't rush in." Another added, "Watch your footing." The ground beneath them had changed. A thin layer formed, barely visible, but enough to slow movement. One fighter tested a step. His movement felt heavier. Something's affecting the ground. The others noticed and adjusted their stance. The change spread quietly, not fast, but consistent. A fighter moved forward, carefully this time. Each step required more effort. His movement slowed slightly. "It's getting harder to move." Another responded, "Don't stay in one place too long." Several fighters adjusted their position, trying to stay balanced, trying to stay aware. One of them looked toward the mirror. "We might need to use it," but no one rushed immediately. They had already learned. At the center, the masked woman remained still, observing. The mist around her expanded slowly. It reached the edges of the field. A fighter near the front stopped moving. "My legs feel heavy." He tried to adjust his stance, but his movement lacked control. Nearby fighters noticed and kept their distance. At the edge, Alex watched quietly. Not an attack type, he thought. This is control. His eyes followed the ground. She's shaping movement, not forcing it. Back in the arena, one fighter made a decision. "I'll try the mirror." He moved forward, slow, measured. When he reached it, he touched the surface. A reaction spread across the arena. The air shifted again. The ground felt unstable for a moment. He stepped back quickly, trying to steady himself. Others observed carefully. At the center, the masked woman adjusted her position slightly. Not retreating, not advancing, just enough to maintain control. The battlefield became more difficult to navigate. Movement required more effort now. Even simple steps needed focus. One fighter spoke with tension. "We can't move freely anymore." Another replied, "That's our advantage." They tried to coordinate, but their timing wasn't aligned. One moved too early, another too late. Their spacing broke. The mist continued to spread. Slowly, steadily, one fighter attempted to move forward again. His movement stopped midway. He held his position, trying to regain control, but the environment no longer allowed easy adjustment. At the center, the masked woman remained steady. Everything around her followed her pace. After some time, the arena grew quiet again. No more coordinated movement remained. The field had settled. Only one figure stood unaffected, the white lion mask. From above, a calm voice echoed, "Group 10 complete." At the edge, Alex remained still. She controlled everything, he thought. Not by force, but by limiting others. His gaze lifted. The woman above made another mark. Not just recording, she's selecting. Group 11 began. 32 contestants stepped forward. The barrier closed behind them. For a brief moment, nothing felt different. Then slowly, the air began to change. One fighter noticed it first. "Does it feel warmer?" Another looked around. "Yeah, something's different." A third focused toward the center. "It's coming from there." At the center, a man stood. A lion mask covered his face. There was no sudden movement, no visible action, but the space around him felt unstable, as if the air itself was shifting. One fighter spoke carefully. "Keep some distance." Another added, "Don't rush forward." The ground beneath them felt normal, but the air carried a strange weight. One fighter took a step. "Something feels off." The others adjusted slightly, trying to understand the change. For a short while, no one acted. The arena remained still. The fighters focused on observing rather than moving, trying to understand the change before reacting. After that moment, a few fighters shifted their stance. Not advancing, not retreating, just adjusting. One of them spoke quietly. "It's not stable." Another replied, "The air feels different." They watched the center carefully. No one rushed forward this time. The man at the center remained still. There was no visible action, but the space around him continued to feel unsettled. One fighter glanced toward the mirror. Should we try it? No one answered immediately. The hesitation remained. The group was no longer reacting quickly. They were waiting, trying to understand before acting. At the edge, Alex watched quietly. His eyes remained focused on the center. This isn't simple heat, he thought. It's affecting the space itself. His gaze shifted slightly, not outward, but controlled around him. Back in the arena, one fighter finally moved. Slowly, carefully, he approached the mirror, not rushing, not forcing it. When he reached it, he placed his hand against the surface. A reaction followed. The air shifted again, but this time, it didn't feel weaker. It felt different. The fighter stepped back, trying to understand what had changed. Others watched closely. No one moved immediately. At the center, the masked man remained still, unchanged. The space around him stayed under his control. The situation became harder to manage, not because of speed, but because of consistency. The space did not return to normal. It remained unsettled. One fighter spoke under pressure. We can't predict it. Another answered quietly. And we can't control distance either. They tried to adjust, but not together. Each one reacted differently. Some stayed still. Some shifted slightly. Their timing no longer matched. The coordination broke down. One fighter looked toward the center. He hasn't moved at all. Another responded. He doesn't need to. That realization spread slowly. The difference was clear now. At the center, the masked man remained calm. Everything else continued to adjust around him. After some time, the arena returned to stillness. No further movement followed. No coordination remained. Only one figure stood unaffected. The lion mask. From above, a calm voice echoed. Group 11 complete. At the edge, Alex remained still. The mirror didn't weaken him, he thought. It only changed the balance. His gaze lifted. The woman above marked another result. Same pattern. She decides before it ends. Group 12 began. 32 contestants stepped forward. The barrier closed behind them. For a moment, nothing felt different. The arena remained calm. One fighter spoke, slightly confused. Is this it? Another looked around carefully. I don't feel anything unusual. At the center, a man stood, twin blades at his sides. His posture relaxed. No visibroha, no pressure, just stillness. One fighter exhaled. He doesn't seem dangerous. Another replied. Stay alert anyway. A fighter stepped forward. Slowly, watching closely, everything looked normal. Then, he paused. Wait. The others looked toward him. Something changed. No one could point to what. But the formation was no longer the same. The group adjusted slightly. Their positions were no longer aligned. One fighter spoke, uncertain. Did anyone move? Another replied. No. But something feels different. A third looked around carefully. We're not standing the same anymore. The realization spread slowly. Not through sight, but through instinct. At the center, the masked man remained still, unchanged. A fighter narrowed his eyes. He's doing something. Another answered quietly. But I didn't see anything. That was the problem. Nothing had been seen. Nothing had been heard. Yet the formation kept shifting. The fighters tried to regroup, try and stay aware of each other, try to maintain distance. But their timing was off. Their attention was no longer steady. At the edge, Alex observed in silence. His gaze remained fixed on the center. He isn't moving in a normal way, he thought. It's not about speed. His eyes follow the fighters. Their awareness shifts, and he moves within that gap. Back in the arena, one fighter turned suddenly. I know something is happening. He stepped forward, trying to force a reaction, but nothing changed. The masked man remained still. Another fighter spoke, uneasy. He's controlling the moment. A third added, we're reacting too late every time. They tried to adjust, trying to stay focused, trying to anticipate movement, but their timing never matched. Their attention kept slipping, and each time it did, the formation shifted again. Not suddenly, not violently, but enough to break their coordination. The arena grew quieter over time. The fighters no longer moved forward. They no longer attempted to attack. They stood still, trying to understand, trying to react at the right moment. But the moment never came. The difference in control was clear. At the center, the masked man remained calm, unchanged. The situation resolved itself, without resistance, without noise. Only one figure remained standing, the twin blades at his sides. From above, a calm voice echoed, "Group 12 complete." At the edge, Alex remained still. Precision, he thought. No wasted movement. His gaze lifted. The woman above had already marked the result. Execution type confirmed. Group 13 began. 32 contestants stepped forward. The barrier closed behind them. This time, no one moved immediately. The arena felt different. Not heavy, not unstable, just quiet. The fighters did not rush. They observed, carefully. At the center, a man stood. A lion mask covered his face. He remained still. There was no visible pressure, no outward sign of strength. Yet, no one approached. One fighter adjusted his stance. Something feels off. Another looked toward the center. He's waiting. The group did not advance. For the first time, they chose to think before moving. The silence continued. No one rushed forward. The fighters adjusted their positions slightly. Not attacking, not retreating, just observing. At the center, the masked man remained still, watching. One fighter shifted his stance, testing distance. Another followed, trying to match the movement. Their timing was not exact. A small difference, but enough. The balance between them changed. They noticed it, but did not understand it. The masked man made a slight adjustment. Not fast, not forceful, just enough. The spacing changed again. The fighters reacted, but their reactions did not align. One moved too early, another waited too long. The formation loosened, not suddenly, but gradually. The control of the situation was no longer theirs. For a brief moment, nothing changed. The arena remained still. No one moved immediately. The fighters focused on observing rather than acting, trying to understand before making the next move. At the edge, Alex watched closely. His attention remained steady. This is different, he thought. He isn't forcing anything. His gaze shifted across the field. They are creating their own mistakes. Back in the arena, the fighters remained cautious. They did not rush forward. They did not commit to an attack. Small adjustments were made. Careful, measured, but not aligned. One moved. Another paused. The difference was small, but noticeable. The spacing changed slightly. The group reacted, trying to correct it, but the correction created another difference. The cycle continued. At the center, the masked man remained still. No sudden movement, no visible effort. Yet the situation continued to shift, and the fighters could not regain control. The arena remained quiet. No sudden movement followed. The fighters stood in place, thinking, watching, but not acting. Each of them tried to find the right moment, the right decision, but that moment never arrived. Their timing continued to differ. Their choices no longer matched. Small differences remained, and those differences were enough. At the center, the masked man stood calmly, unchanged, no visible effort. Yet the situation continued to shift. The control of the field was no longer shared. It belonged to him. After some time, the arena settled into stillness. No further movement followed. The outcome was clear. Only one figure remained at the center. The lion mask. From above, a calm voice echoed, "Group 13, complete." At the edge, Alex remained still. He wins before anything begins, he thought. His gaze lifted slowly. The woman above completed her final mark. Not strength, not speed, decision. A quiet realization formed. This arena is not just a test. It is a selection, and someone was deciding everything.